manifestation that is seen in this condition. Here, before I go forward, I want to tell you from historical perspective, there are two people who had Addison disease from historical aspect was one, the American president John F. Kennedy, who was shot, and second was Osama bin Laden. Well, looks surprising. Osama bin Laden, well, he was the chief of Al Qaeda, as you all know, and he was making all these grand plans, and he was the guy responsible for 9/11. But then he was hidden in Pakistan in Abbottabad by the Al Qaeda people because the Americans were after him. So if you're gonna watch that movie about Osama bin Laden, you will notice the fact, and this is documented in the movie, that when he's giving these speeches, and he used to post these speeches on Al Qaeda website saying, "I'm gonna destroy India, I'm gonna destroy America." The Americans noticed that he was having hyperpigmentation because when you're talking, your hands, knuckles would be visible. Palmar creases, my palmar crease is normal. In that guy, palmar crease would have been dark. Lips would start turning dark. The gingiva might start turning black. So the Americans noticed that he was having some visible hyperpigmentation. That could have been neglected. But then they found that in Pakistan they were doing this surveillance via satellite. So in a particular house in Abbottabad, when the satellite used to go over the house, they used to pick up a man who used to come and pray 5 times per day. Osama bin Laden was a very tall guy, 6 feet 5 inches. In fact, his arm span was more than height. You know that people who have arm span more than height, either they become very good swimmers like Michael Phelps, or they can handle Kalashnikov rifles. No, in fact, Osama bin Laden in his initial videos, he could handle two AK-47 Kalashnikov rifles in his two hands, the Terminator style. Why I'm telling you this is because the American satellite used to go over the house and they used to find a very tall man, but they never knew that this is Osama bin Laden unless and until they knew they could not have gone into that house. So how did they find that? That's very interesting from historical perspective. One, they got a lead that there was a guy who was purchasing large amount of steroids because treatment of choice for this condition is hydrocortisone. So they found a lead of a guy who was purchasing hydrocortisone in large amounts from a chemist shop in Pakistan, and he was going into the same house where this tall man was living, and the satellite was scanning that house. Then they decided to actually go into that house, no, not in the form of a strike team, but if you see the movie, they conducted a vaccination drive. They conducted a vaccination drive saying that, WHO, some organization, has conducted a vaccination survey for Abbottabad and the immunization coverage is less because in that house, Osama bin Laden's wife and children were also residing. So they did a evaluation, like they did a vaccination study or they did vaccination of that particular house, and all the needles that were used for vaccination, they were all sent to America. Those needles were sent to America for DNA analysis because the actual family of Osama bin Laden resides in Saudi Arabia, and they had the blood sample of his original brothers and sisters, and they found a perfect match. And in fact, later on, that is when Obama, the American president, he ordered a hit in which Osama was killed by the SEAL team, as you would have read. In fact, why I'm telling you this is from historical perspective, that Addison disease and at the same time DNA analysis played an important role in Americans knowing that 6'5" tall guy residing in a very outskirts of Pakistan in a small city like Abbottabad was actually Osama bin Laden. So Addison disease was well documented in medical files. The third hormone that's going to be lesser in this